Let me show you how to make an apron with no pattern and sewing them out of bed sheets. Pick the bed sheet fabric you want. My bed sheets at my local thrift store are $1.99 for a twin. They're cotton, they've been washed twice, we're good to go. Using 2 prints, you don't have to do that, but if you want to, you can. First thing you want to do is measure yourself if it's for you, or kind of go with it if it's for somebody else. This is going to be a gift for someone else. So basically I'm going to use myself as a guide, and I'm going to cut a piece that will kind of go from like here as my base. My bottom piece. For reference, this is 30 inches wide and 32 inches long, okay? I'm gonna be doing about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now I'm gonna cut the top piece. I cut 2 pieces for the top of the same fabric because we're gonna use 2 layers, and I'll show you that later, but this is the top piece that the straps will connect to and the tie around. Mine is 12 inches wide by 14 inches long, probably too big. So you could probably shrink this by 1 inch, but I wanted to give myself just enough seam allowance just in case something goes wrong. Next, you're going to cut out your waistband. 2 pieces. This is going to go around your waist. Mine are 142 inches long and then 3 inches wide, and I did 2 of them. Now iron everything flat. Everything needs to be ironed. Just do it. Now that everything is ironed, you're going to take your skirt piece. And what I like to do is I like to iron the sides in and fold it and then sew it before I do anything else. So what you're going to do is you're going to go on the very bottom and you're going to do right side down, means the wrong side is up. And you're going to fold in the fabric once and iron and fold it in twice. I like to do about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch fold, each fold. Let me show you. So you're going to fold the bottom hem once, iron, fold it again, iron, and then you're going to sew down this part right here, okay? Now that the hem is done on the bottom, we have to make sure the raw edge on the sides, skirt part, do not fray. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing we did on the bottom. We could do a different corner, but I'm going to keep this very simple, beginner friendly. So you're going to fold in and iron once across the entire sides, both sides, and then fold in again. And then you'll sew on this side, and you could even sew again down the bottom of here so this fold is really secure. This is what the bottom should look like, and this is what the sides should look like. So now we're going to focus on the top. We're going to do a base stitch across the top, maybe 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters away from here. And we're going to leave the tails really, really, really long, okay? And if you don't want to do a base stitch because that's a little bit too hard, you could sew and scrunch and then sew and then scrunch and then keep sewing and scrunching until you have a gathered material around. That might be very confusing, but let me show you what a base stitch is. So I have all of this, I'm pulling for the length, and then I'm just going to not back stitch here. No back stitching for this part. Everywhere else you back stitch when you start and finish. Here, no back stitching. And you're just going to go all the way down, okay? I have 3 sizes of stitches for a running stitch, and it's just going to be my largest size. Okay, go all the way down. Okay, and then when you're done, you keep pulling. You want a long amount, and then cut off. Now we start pulling. You pull, and you just keep pulling your fabric so then it bunches up. And you keep doing this for how wide you want your skirt to be, okay? So the bunching needs to meet from hip to hip just about, okay? So you bunch, you just keep pulling. You see how the fabric is going down the long line that we just did? You kind of have to work it through. This is kind of like the worst part, but it's really not hard. I don't enjoy it, but it makes a cute apron. You could fold these things over and then sew over the folds to make like little pleated bunches, but that can be hard too. So you're just gonna keep pulling and pulling until you get the desired width you want the skirt. I just got done bunching, and it's about 12.5, 13 inches wide. You see how it did that? So it's gonna be like this. You can do it wider if you want it to go all the way around, smaller. It really just depends on your body. The next thing we're gonna work on are the straps. You're going to fold them in half, right sides together, and iron, okay? And then you're going to sew across here all the way down, leaving the bottoms opened, okay? I just ironed both of these pieces. We're gonna sew across and all the way down and leave this open. Remember to back stitch at every spot of this, okay? I'm done with both straps, okay? Bottom is closed, top is open. Get a boba straw or any kind of straw that's a little bit wide, and you're going to push it through your strap, okay? And then you're gonna take a skewer or some kind of stick, something small, and use a flat end, not the pointy end. And you're gonna push the fabric through so it puts it right side in without you having to use a safety pin, because the safety pin process makes you want to lose your mind. And then you use the flat end and you push that out and your strap is done. Okay, watch it again. Flat part, through the straw, push through lightly, all the way through, push out the ends. Now iron, and you're going to get ready to add these to your top piece. This next step is really not always necessary, but if your fabric is a little bit thinner for the straps, you can sew down both sides to add some structure. I'm going to do that so the person I gift this to doesn't have to like worry about it falling apart, but you can skip this step. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it on both my straps. This is what the straps look like now that I've sewn the sides down and the bottom. And then this part is the part that we're going to attach to the inside of the top. So let me show you. So the top piece is right sides together. So you'll have to be facing the back part down, okay? And then we are going to attach these pieces with the crazy bottoms, not the nice top, to each side of the inside of that. So it's going to look like this. You're gonna wanna place it somewhere where you basically want the straps to be around the shoulder. And I'm gonna pin these where I want them, okay? My top piece is a little bit too wide, I think, for the person that I'm making this for. So I am going to do kind of a thicker seam allowance, maybe even a 1/2 inch, but it just depends on your body. I just trimmed the excess off and pinned it where I think I want the straps to go, which are gonna be right here. And for reference, another one I made, it's more for my measurement, so they're a little bit here, but they could have gone wider and that would have been fine. So here is where I've pinned them, here and here. And I pin it, the pin going down this way, so when I go to sew around, my sewing machine will just go right over it instead of pinning it sideways. I'm going to lay the other fabric down, front and sides together, make sure they're in the right direction. If you have pattern fabric, make sure it's in the right direction. And now I'm going to pin all the way around the sides, but leaving the bottom open. We're gonna be sewing the side, the top, and the side. And we're going to leave the bottom open so we can flip this entire thing over and out. Before you sew, go ahead and tuck the straps in the middle so you don't accidentally sew over the straps while you're going around each side, because that would be a real big bummer. Sewn all 3 sides, and now I'm just going to trim the excess fabric. I'm going to put it right side in. Bottom hole that we left, our hand through, we're going to pull the top through, and then we're going to flatten it out and iron it. So I just pulled this through, and because we sewed these in there, they come right out, and now you have perfectly done ties on the top. Your skewer, and not the pointy side, the flat side, and you're going to just push the corners through, and you're going to want to press this really good. So what you can do, iron it real good, and then I'm going to sew across the top of mine. Do not sew the bottom shut yet. It's all pressed very well, and I'm going to sew just the top. Sewing across the top is not like a necessary step. I just like the look of it, so that's why I'm doing it. And eyeball how high I want this to be, and I think I'm going to do it this high. We're going to work on the waistband now. We're going to take our 2 waistband material, and you're going to make sure that they are right sides together. So you'll see the back of the fabric. And if you have a pattern, make sure the patterns are facing the right direction. Like I have flowers and I want them facing up, so I'm making sure they're facing up like that. And then you're going to sew this together, these 2 sides. Don't forget to back stitch. Sew the 2 pieces together, and when you open them, you will have a nice little seam, and that seam is going to be where the center of your waistband is, okay? And the center on the apron. And now we have a really long piece, okay? Now we're going to make this kind of like what we would do for batting. It's hard to explain, so let me show you. Depending on your body, you might want the waistband to be wider. So if you want a thicker waistband like this, 3 inches might not be enough. Maybe do 4. So folding it in and ironing it. Little piece, when you get here, you're going to flatten out where you sewed it, so it's like this. And you're going to iron over that and press it real good so it's flat. Okay, and now that it's folded, you are going to fold each side in just like a 1/4 inch. Not all the way down to the fold, because we still want it to be thicker. So I'm going to fold that much in on each side and iron down the sides. So I've ironed the sides, and then you're going to fold them in like this, you see, and then iron down the entire thing after you folded it. As you fold it, iron it down. After we've attached this to the apron, we'll worry about the edge pieces that are open and raw edged. So don't worry about that, just keep ironing. So I like to make the waistband kind of extra long so I can double up my tie. I like to go from the back and then tie in the front. You don't have to do that. So if you find that this is way too long for you, then cut it short. I like an extra long tie. Now that we're done ironing, kind of be careful not to mess up the folds too much. You could pin it if you want, but we're about to attach it to our skirt, so I like to leave mine open. Make sure it's the same length on each side, because this is our middle point. Now we're going to find the middle point of our skirt, and we are going to attach it to the middle point here. So fold this in half, and here is my middle point. So now I'm going to attach the middle point to that middle point inside the opening. We're going to attach this inside middle point in there, and you're going to do that all the way in. You're going to put your skirt into the fold, into this inside, and you're going to pin it down and then sew across. So now I have pinned the entire skirt underneath that fold of the waistband, So I'm going to start, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure it's the length I want without poking myself. I like how long the straps are. So from this end all the way across the fold, closing the gap. So when we start from right to left, will go across the entire strap and the waistband and to the very end. As we go across, to adhere this to the skirt, we'll be sewing this shut while also attaching the waistband. So go ahead and sew across this entire bottom portion, closing that gap. The skirt is attached to the waistband, and it is looking so cute so far. Now what you're going to do, pin the top part to the bottom part. So here is the top part upside down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sides and I'm going to fold them in the inside like this. And then I'm going to iron these, and I'm going to pin it to the waistband. To want to decide how long you want the top. Like this feels like a very long torso, so I might even fold it in kind of a lot if you want. I might do 1.5 inches of a fold in to shorten it a little bit, and then iron and pin it. Now that I have it ironed and folded in, I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to pinch it real good, because it's going to leave a little line right there. So now I know where the middle of here is to attach to the middle on the waistband. So here is my fold. Here is my middle of the line that from the waistband. And I'm going to just pin this on like that and pin it across. And then I'm going to sew across the entire top of the waistband all the way across until we end up going all the way down to the other end of the tie. That's what it looks like pinned together. And when I go to sew the top part across the whole thing, it will adhere together. You don't have to do this next part, but I'm going to go ahead and sew right on top of what I previously sewed. So I also am sewing the bottom part of this. Leave it unsewn and you'll have a little flap, which really is no big deal, but I don't like that, so I'm going to sew both pieces. I'm going to sew the top and the bottom. And you just go right over the same parts that you sewed before, just around the waist. You don't have to go around the whole thing. It's done. I just have to trim all of the random thread off, and now you have a very cute apron. And see how I like to do a little tie like that. You don't have to, that's why I do it extra long, or you can just tie it in the back. Crazy thing that this was just 2 twin bed sheets, pieces of it. Depending on your measurements, things might look a little bit different on you, but this is basically what I have found the easiest non-pattern way to make an apron. And if you want to make the straps even longer, to where you can fully double up and make a big bow in the front, add an extra 6 inches to each side and you'll have a big bow. And I'm wearing a really thick sweater right now and it still fits all the way around twice, so I feel like you can make it bigger or smaller, however you want. But this is so cute and it's made out of bed sheets. All right, I hope this helps. I know it's hard following patterns. When I was a beginner, it was hard to follow a physical written pattern, and videos were just so much easier. So I hope this made sense. Please tag me if you make it, and if you have any questions, let me know.